Welcome to today's Daily Walk in Wisdom. We're finding ourselves being caught up into a wonderful romance in the book of Song of Songs. We're still right at the very beginning, chapter 1, verse 2. The Shulamite, let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is sweeter than wine. Song of Songs is not a religious book. There's no mention of God, no mention of salvation or justification or redemption or holiness, or prophecy or sin or any of the themes that we usually associate with religion. However, all of the great themes of Christianity are embedded within the story. It is a story. It's an allegory, an allegory, an allegory. It's an allegory of truth, that like many of Jesus' parables concealed truth for those who earnestly desire to seek it. If you earnestly desire to find truth, you'll find it in the Song of Songs. Its truth unfolds progressively. It's a little like entering the outer court of the tabernacle or the temple and working your way through it, and then entering the holy place, and you'll notice there's not as many things in the holy place as there were or as there was within the outer court, because things get increasingly simple as you move closer towards God. All of the trappings fall away and you let go of things, let go of a lot of the things that you were doing as you get closer to God. And then finally you arrive in the Holy of Holies, the holiest place of all. So we're talking about the Song of Songs, and you've got the Holy of Holies. How about that? The supreme holy place, the supreme song. It's an apocalypse or a revelation. The closer you get, the further you get in, the greater the revelation. Lots of times we have revelations about all these things, but as you get closer, the revelation really is of Jesus. It's of Him. Whilst we might interpret the story allegorically or see its intricate truths in the story, it doesn't mean that we're dealing with a fairy tale. We can assume that the story is true. The Shulamite woman was from a family in Jerusalem, probably in Jerusalem. She was an Ephraimite who became one of God's people. The father has left the scene. We don't know why. Maybe he died. Maybe he passed away. And there are at least several siblings, a couple of sons at least, and several daughters. And it's possible that these were her half-brothers, her half-siblings, and that she is the Cinderella of the family. And so here we have the original Cinderella story. The Shulamite has become a member of Israel and is therefore belonging to God's people, and she's working in the king's vineyard and is therefore in the king's service, but she does not yet have a love relationship with the king. And the book begins at a point of change in her life. One day, while working in one of Solomon's vineyards, she spies Solomon, and immediately he captivates her. He has her complete attention, her complete focus. She's caught up in the divine romance, and the reason for her existence becomes apparent, and her pursuit, it is in her pursuit of a relationship with the king that becomes the all-consuming thing. And this is the divine romance. From the moment Jesus reveals himself to us, we find our raison d'etre, and we seek him, or our reason for existence. We seek him with all our being, to be in a love relationship with Jesus. And the title is the Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. So at that time, Israel is ruling the world, and Solomon is the king of Israel, and so he is the king of all other kings. And so in the story, he represents Jesus. He represents King Jesus. Jesus is the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, and King of Kings. And this love song is composed and sung by the King of Kings, who is wooing us to himself, drawing us to himself. He is the one who first loved us. He loved us first. He is the one who takes the initiative in drawing us to himself. It's not we who go off searching for him. Love pursues us. And the story is primarily delivered in the form of a dialogue between the Shulamite and Solomon. And this is because love is a dialogue. I said yesterday that love is a song. Today I'm saying love is a dialogue. There are only three ultimate messages. There is the atheist's message, and then there's the pantheist's message, and then there's the theists, or those that believe in God. It's their message. So atheism says there is no God, therefore there can be no dialogue. Only a monologue. It's man speaking to himself. Pantheism says that everything is God. So there's no created world of free souls for God to dialogue with. Only theism holds that a dialogue is possible between God and man. And this is why the Song of Songs is presented as a dialogue, because love is a relationship. It's a relationship between two lovers. In other words, it is not enough to be or not to be. We are designed to be with. It's not whether you're going to be or not to be, like in Shakespeare, to be or not to be, that is the question. No, it is we are designed to be with. Because love is a dialogue. And because love is a dialogue, the simplest conversation that you have with anybody, or the simplest prayer that you pray between you and God, manifests the deepest mystery of existence, and that is that we are designed to be with someone. To be with someone and to be with God. The word for Shulamite and the word for Solomon have the same root word. One is masculine, that's Solomon, and the other is feminine, that's the Shulamite. So we're being told here that we find our root, as it is the same root. We find our root in Jesus. You and Jesus fit hand in glove, like the flower and the bee, like the leaf and the tree. Today's gender debate is more than an attack upon sexual identity. It threatens the very relationship that God has designed for us to have with him, because it's an attack upon the image of God in man, and ultimately it is an attack upon the nature of God and upon the structure of society. And when it comes to our relationship with God, he always takes the initiative. He always takes the masculine role, and we always take the feminine role. The mystics say that to God all souls are feminine, not female, but feminine, and God is always masculine, not male, but masculine. The very word for soul is feminine in every major Western language except for English, where we de-sex it and make it gender neutral. But this is the reason why throughout the Bible God is male and never female. It's not being literal, because God is spirit and not a body. And thus we're not speaking about God's biology when we talk about God. It's not talking about biological sex at all. But the language is important because it pertains to our relationship with God. God is always experienced as the husband of the soul. God is the one who impregnates us, and not vice versa. God creates new life in us, not vice versa. God is always experienced as the husband of the soul. God comes into us and not vice versa. No matter how much the woke language of modernity rants and raves, we cannot change the essential, eternal laws of the very structure of reality to conform to their ideological fancy. So in the Song of Songs, the Shulamite is the bride. The Shulamite is you, and the Shulamite is me, and the Shulamite is the church who is the bride of Christ. The Shulamite is the bride who symbolizes also the soul, and the groom is Solomon, who symbolizes God. This is the basis for true love. Boom. This is the basis for true love. Did you hear that? You can't twist this into some kind of modern trans agenda. True love requires the feminine and the masculine to become united as one. That is what God is calling us into, to be united as one with Him. And don't you ever forget that. That's what we're getting into with this beautiful romance. We'll see you again tomorrow for some more wisdom